Hi, my name is Terry Markson, and I am the Senior Librarian from the Exploration and Creativity Department at the Los Angeles Public Library, and I am here to introduce today's LA Made program. First, I want to thank the National Endowment for the Humanities, our Library Foundation, and our behind-the-scenes staff for helping bring the LA Made programs to you virtually. I hope everyone checks out our amazing offerings on our online calendar at lapl.org/events. Also, many of our branches are now hosting special LA Made programs, including modern calligraphy with Debbie Reelitz on Friday, that's a Friday, February 4th. Get ready for Valentine's Day by adorning your cards with a flourish. You can see all of the upcoming LA Made programs at lapl.org/LAMade. Our next Thursday LA Made program will feature Mariachi Arco Iris de Los Angeles, sorry for the pronunciation, on February 11th at 4 p.m. This is the world's first LGBTQ plus mariachi and brings Mexican music and folklore to Southern California by performing its repertoire to suit the LGBTQ plus community. And the program will be followed by a Q&A with the director. Now, on to today's LA Made. LA Made focuses on the diverse landscape of Los Angeles, highlighting the immense artistic and performance talent that is developed in the course of the city's eclectic history. Today's LA Made program is The Making of Reverberations. Accompanied by violinist Niv Ashkenazi, creators Doni Silver-Simons and Michelle Green-Willner discuss the making of their powerful multisensory work exploring deception during the darkest of times. Dr. Michelle Green-Willner, a dramatic and evocative award-winning composer, and Doni Silver-Simons, an internationally exhibited performance and visual artist, began their multidisciplinary alliance in 2016 with the premiere of Reverberations. This work was selected to be performed at the 2017 Jerusalem Biennial and was also presented at the 2019 Connie Conference in New York. Let's please welcome Michelle, Doni, and later Niv.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to Terry Markson for that lovely introduction, and thank you to LA Made for reaching out and encouraging us to present The Making of Reverberations. Thank you as well to Neil Stokes, who's the background tech whiz for this production. We would like to thank you all for joining us today. Please post your questions and your comments in the chat, and also let us know where you are watching from and who you are. And we look forward to addressing them at the end of the program. My name is Michelle Green-Willner, and I'm delighted to be presenting here today alongside artist, friend, and collaborator, Doni Silver-Simons.
Thank you, Michelle. Hi, everyone. I'm Doni Silver-Simons. This afternoon, Michelle and I are going to walk you through the creation of Reverberations, a performance that presented a moment in history where time and reality were upended, a time whose echoes still resonate within all of us, a time whose relevance hasn't diminished. This performance premiered at the Museum of Tolerance in 2016 and was then presented in 2019 at the Connie Conference on Jewish Arts at the 92nd Street Y in New York City. The original show included 8 performers and 12 musicians. I want to thank Michelle for her generosity of spirit and willingness to expand the production of Reverberations in 2016. Unknown to us at that time, it would become our first of many collaborations. In only 5 years, we have thus far performed 4 collaborative works and are currently working on our 5th, a chamber opera.
Reverberations dealt with a specific moment in time, Kristallnacht, literally crystal night or night of the broken glass. which occurred November 9 through 10, 1938. Kristallnacht was a pogrom against Jews which manifested throughout Nazi Germany, while German officials did nothing. In fact, historians believe that Kristallnacht was a precursor to the Holocaust, the final solution and the murder of 6 million Jews. The show Reverberations and its title was inspired by Elie Wiesel's talk on the 70th anniversary of Kristallnacht, which happened at the 92nd Street Y, in which he eloquently stated, "Reverberations from the past affect what occurs today." Kristallnacht was an ominous night and a prelude to not only Holocaust reverberations. Our show also shows that it's an inference to other forms of violence that, when not dealt with, and we see this today, because of a lack of action, after effects and aftershocks can occur. Yesterday was International Holocaust Memorial Day, and as the daughter of a Holocaust survivor, we feel that this program is relevant in the moment.
We will start with a short video of the highlights of the 2016 Museum of Tolerance performance. You will notice that this work takes part in several different areas of the museum and is divided into 3 parts. Afterwards, we will describe the narrative and take a look at the different aspects of our collaboration.
And when they sprayed my back, there flowed much blood. They shoot! And I really believed that my blood would cover the stain. A second barrage of bullets. I really believed that my blood would cover the stain. This way, or that way. But no sun had come. The mouth and the hand both had lied. The mouth and the hand both had lied. And I say blood, they say paint.
In the Museum of Tolerance performance, we situated both the prelude and the postlude in the rotunda of the museum. To unpack reverberations chronologically, let's start with the prelude. Both prelude and postlude were bookended with an original setting to the text Adonai Ma Adam, God, what is man, which you see before you. This text serves as an introduction to the formal Yizkor Remembrance Memorial Prayer. As you can see in the slide, the text speaks to the frailty of man, but the music also emanates hope that through our act of remembering the departed, by honoring our obligation to bear witness to trauma, and with our acts of generosity, especially in the form of charity, their souls will be elevated. Today, we are so pleased that you will hear later in the program a new solo violin version of Adonai Ma Adam, written especially for the acclaimed violinist Niv Ashkenazi.
The Museum of Tolerance presented a dynamic site with tremendous potential. It sparked my imaginings. It was a space that begged for performative work. I immediately saw this piece beginning with an art performance in the public space, transitioning to a traditional proscenium stage presentation in their auditorium, and then returning to the rotunda for its conclusion. I envisioned a complete package, engaging the viewer from the moment they entered the museum, from their arrival to their departure. Throughout the prelude, the entire story of Reverberations is enacted in vignettes on the main floor, the atrium, the central rotunda, and inside individual windows, inviting viewers to explore the concepts of the performance. It became an aperitif before the formal production began in the theater on the proscenium stage. Here you notice the image of Christina Pressler, one of our pendulums. This was the most abstract element. Performers placed in the atrium windows representing pendulums of time. They represented time's continuous and unrelenting movement. In the rotunda, the narrative of the evening was presented as a mother, a father, and child enact sequential events as they transitioned from a happy family unit to the shocking and fearful beginning of Kristallnacht. The sequence was repeated over and over as it was for 2 nights in 1938. This repetition underscores the number of times this event occurred as each family, each individual person experienced it on their own. Here you see an image of the knitting woman. When Michelle introduced me to Milton Steinberg's quote, "It is when the world is most torn by conflict that the sheltered existence seems most appealing," I realized that a major player in this event was the everyman. Those who refused to acknowledge reality, those who insulated themselves within the mundane. Knitting. And so I created the knitting woman and placed her in the atrium, oblivious to the events around her. She is the embodiment of the everyman, a constant throughout the performance, an unfortunate reality even in our present time. Audience members wandered through the prelude and then found their way to the auditorium. As the formal program began, the knitting woman took her place at the front of the stage, where she remained for the entire performance. The family entered through the audience to the stage, where, as you saw in the video, they were shocked as they experienced the shattering of glass, of Kristallnacht.
After the shattered glass, the musical piece, Reverberation, begins on an amplified violin. You have just heard a clip of this piece in our video trailer. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge Sharon Jackson, who you can see here, who performed so brilliantly. Commissioned by the LA Jewish Music Commission, the piece is purely abstract. It resounds through time and sound with motivic echoes, quivers, tremolos, delays depicting a dream sequence full of memories, running figures full of frenetic warning, and the collapse of melody leading to repeated brutality. That's how our trailer started. 2 Yiddish folk songs are manipulated in an effort to convey a pre, peri, and post Kristallnacht. In the pre or before segment, sound bites of the Yiddish tunes and their disruptions convey the hope of German Jewish families who were living normal, happy lives, dashed amidst warnings of oncoming disaster. In peri, or the during phrase, the clips become more abrupt, open-ended, and agitated, depicting the ugliness and the marching Nazi perpetrators. In post, or coda, the devastation and the haunting result is clear, the dying and relentless grief of the Holocaust. This segment, the coda, is performed as a real coda at the end of the formal presentation of the show in the auditorium. After Reverberations set the mood, a suite of poems with its back and forth collaborations of music and movement begin. Before we get into that, however, I would love for Doni to please describe these magnificent dramatic scrims that we used throughout the production.
As Michelle and I reviewed my archived work, looking for pieces to use as backdrops, she was attracted to the density and repetition of my marks and to the monochromatic palette of many of the works. We agreed they would augment and enhance her densely populated and highly intense music. Depending on one's background, viewers of my work have often interpreted the marks I make to be representative of being jailed, appropriate to this show of the Holocaust, or to a more Zen approach to the marking of time. While both Michelle and I use density as a tool, my work seeks a level of restraint, of clarity, albeit interrupted by the forces of nature that impose themselves on us. I mark time, using marks as an awareness and as a language for memory. I layer the present on the past and pierce it with portals to the future. Hopefully, the parallels as well as the contrast between us have served to enhance this collaboration.
Written in 1987 and then rearranged in 2017, The Stain of Blood is a musical suite based on 3 Israeli poems which do not deal directly with the Holocaust, but together as a suite encompass an urgency of oncoming darkness and survival. Each poem, sung in Hebrew, is from a different generation of Israeli poets. In writing settings to these poems, Judaism. Yes, this is the same Milton Steinberg who wrote As a Driven Leaf, one of my favorite books. It is when the world is most torn by conflict that the sheltered existence seems most appealing. But this is also the hour when humanity is most in need of intrepid hearts and skilled hands, of those who are capable of turning back warfare from the very gates. Avraham ben Yitzchak, born in Poland in 1883 and died in Israel in 1950. Ben Yitzchak's poem, Whose Dawn, Shachar Shel Mi, proclaims the coming of the dawn whose sun is hidden. It is foreboding poetry, foreshadowing an oncoming darkness. Amir Gilboa, born in the Ukraine in 1917 and died in Petach Tikva, Israel in 1984. In the darkness, or ba'aletet, denotes a lack of transparency, a lack of acknowledging reality. The poem ends with the repetition, "If they show me blood, and I say blood, they say paint." David Avidan, born and died in Tel Aviv, 1934 to 1995. Avidan's poem, "The Stain Remained on the Wall," Haketem Nish'ar al Hakir, deals with attempts by those skilled hands that Steinberg mentions to alleviate the effects of blood that has been shed. The music of the suite displays this hopeless urgency, both stylistically with its dense harmonies, agitated rhythms, and overlapping textures, and as well dramatically with its use of both the spoken and sung word. When I wrote this suite, I was very fortunate to receive permission to set the text by both Gilboa's estate, having met with his wife in Israel about my project, and by Avidan himself, who listened to my music before signing off. In 2016, director of the Museum of Tolerance, Liba Geff, had heard an early recording of my suite and was interested in programming it for the commemoration of Kristallnacht. The suite had just received the Bruce Geller Memorial Prize, so there was some extra funding to reimagine it for the Kristallnacht commemoration. After I met Doni, I knew that I wanted to include her dramatic artwork as scrim backdrops to my music. What I didn't expect was Doni's interest in performance art, and that's when our project exploded into an entire show. So Reverberations, and hence a collaboration, was born by accident.
And what a happy accident it was.
Yes.
Back in the studio, the translated poems were poignantly recorded by Liba Geff and played as a voice-over narration. The performers presented a physical and poetic depiction as each movement progressed. They were the counterbalance to the musical interpretation. The lead performer, Nicole Powell, personified the text, while the Greek chorus, Suzanne Erickson, Christina Pressler, and Sarah True Rosenthal, all whom you can see here, supported her and reinforced key aspects of each poem.
Today, we would like to share a video of the second movement of the suite, In the Darkness, Ba'aletet, which includes a few images from the Reverberations show. This vocal performance is a reimagined arrangement for bass clarinet, piano, and bass. Ed Levy, Amanda Walker, and James Lent, exceptional performers in this video.
Following the suite, the formal stage show concluded with the coda, an immersive collaboration in which both dancer and violinist were present together on the stage, beautifully reacting to one another. I'd like to thank Nicole Powell for her magnificent performance and truly exquisite choreography.
The coda has since been performed independently a number of times. Here is a version performed as part of UCLA's Lowell Milken Fund's Shir Chadash 2019 performance at Art Share LA, with Jeffrey Steinberg on violin and Nicole Powell, dancer.
You know, I've seen that hundreds of times, and I am still deeply moved by that performance. After the curtain call, the performers rushed out of the auditorium and were back in character as the audience exited. With suitcases in hand, the performers slowly and dramatically climbed the rotunda in search of a better life. The knitting woman, as always, sat on the perimeter and continued to knit.
Adonai Ma'adam, God, what is man, now accompanied this postlude in full, with the bass baritone singing it at the bottom of the rotunda. Today, we have the immense pleasure of introducing Niv Ashkenazi in a solo version of this work. Virtuoso violinist Niv Ashkenazi has captivated audiences with his heartfelt musicianship and emotional performances. Praised for his lush sound and passionate playing and formidable technical powers, he has made several Carnegie Hall and Kennedy Center performances, and has performed in Europe, the Middle East, and across North America. As a chamber musician, he has performed with members of the LA Phil, the Juilliard String Quartet, Cavani Quartet, and Ariel Quartet.
In the 2019-2020 season, Niv Ashkenazi was the first artist in residence at the Yunus and Soraya Nazarian Center for Performing Arts. His debut album, Niv Ashkenazi, Violins of Hope, recorded at the Soraya, was released in March 2020 on Albany Records. It was named one of the best classical recordings of 2020 by the Chicago Tribune. Niv holds both a bachelor's and a master's of music from the Juilliard School, where he studied with Itzhak Perlman, Glenn Diderot, Ronald Kopis, and Stephen Clapp.
Niv, I'm excited for your performance of Adonai Ma'adam. I hope that in listening to this memorial piece, one will feel a sense of hope and faith after experiencing adversity as we give voice to those that have passed. I would just like to describe the musical landscape here. This piece involves a counterpoint of two ideas and two melodies. The first idea is one of questioning, sadness, and memory. Remember the frailty of man? This melody embraces its own counterpoint. The second melody is one of optimism, as each day is renewed. When the initial melody returns, however, it is a half step lower. It becomes more powerful, more weighted. It has gained importance. But then the eerie harmonics appear, reminding us of a higher presence, of who we are addressing the question, God, what is man? You thank thank you. Thank you for a beautiful performance. So that we can ask you a question after the program. Reverberations was a very impactful show, both for us as collaborators, for the audience who were able to take this journey back in time with us, as well as for the performers themselves who were impacted by this horrific moment in history.
I can tell you that the ripple effects of Reverberations on the crew and the cast was very powerful. Many were not Jewish, and they reflected on the fact that this was the first time they had ever learned or understood the devastation of the Holocaust. This journey helped all of us understand how on point Elie Wiesel was when he stated that reverberations from the past affect what occurs today. Thank you to all the performers who worked so hard on this show. The actors, Angela Todaro, Zachary Thompson, Lila Balter, and Celeste Ikiki. The dancers, Nicole Powell, Suzanne Erickson, Christina Pressler, and Sarah True Rosenthal. The musicians, Sharon Jackson, Monica Bruckner, Kevin Dalby, and Michael Morgofsky. You were all wonderful. We could not have done this without you.
I certainly agree with that, Doni. And I would also like to thank Liba Geft for her initial invitation and her participation in the show. I would like to add that we are very much looking forward to collaborating with these artists again, hopefully sometime in the near future. And that we hope that you, the audience, will join us for an expanded version of Reverberations. We would like to now open the floor to any questions. And to start us off, hi, Niv.
Hello.
That was just beautiful, Niv. I would love for you to tell us about your reactions in performing Adonai Ma'ada, please.
Well, I have to say it was an honor to get the opportunity to perform it. I mean, I knew that this piece had already been performed, different versions of it. There was already so much meaning behind it from what you guys had created. And so having a new work presented, a new version of this for solo violin, I knew that I needed to have that same feeling brought back while finding a new way to interpret it, since it was in a new medium. And so it was quite an honor to work with Michelle and get to figure it out and get to dig in to the music and its meaning. And for me, after working with Michelle and playing it for my wife, who's a bassoonist, I started talking with my wife, and we actually got to that same place of there being two parts to this. One where there's a more solo line where you just hear the violin by itself, and then another one where you have multiple voices, the double stop area, and that's a more tender place. And so we started talking about it and seeing that that's sort of like the cantor and the congregation. And for me, that's when it started to really come together into a cohesive idea and something that I could really work with for hearing both lines and how they came into one another. It was a very special piece for me to work on, and I'm just really happy that I was able to do it for this.
Thank you so much. That is really so intuitive and I think helpful for the listener. So thank you very much. A beautiful performance once again. I really appreciate that. We would love to know where people are coming from and their names in the comments. So please place any questions that you have. I see somebody told us that they are coming from Taiwan. So hello to Taiwan. But let's start it off because I would love to ask Doni a question. Doni, hello. Hi. Both studio art and composing, they're both very solitary. We just sit in our place and we have nobody to talk to during that time. How did you transition to performance art and to directing?
Interesting question. So I have had parallel careers in performance and in studio art. My first public performance was at the Detroit Institute of Art in 1975. It was new video and performance when it was all very, very new and exciting. So I was just a kid, and I began that way. Most of the work that I did was solo performance or private performances, but the public ones were very exciting. I think you have a picture of Suzanne wrapped in gauze, if you could put that up. Yes, thank you. Here you see an image of Suzanne Erickson, who was actually in the Greek chorus of this piece. This is a piece called Like a Homing Pigeon, and it was performed in private for camera and video. Suzanne was wrapped in gauze and fought her way out. While I do thrive on the solitude of a studio practice, collaboration is a relatively recent trajectory for me. It requires melding and interdependence, a shared vision of a work that is so much more important than any artist themselves, than their ego. It's unique, it's powerful, and it is greatly humbling. So in answer to your question, the transitions were at times difficult. I was learning new things. There was a very steep learning curve, but I felt like I was traversing a very familiar landscape.
The collaboration was most certainly rewarding for me. I mean, it really opened up a whole new can of worms, which was just very exciting.
So I just want to mention that Sarah True Rosenthal, who's in the Greek chorus, is on watching us now. Unfortunately, we can't pull her in on video, but she did comment, Niv, on how exquisite your performance was and how memorable it was to be part of this particular piece, Reverberations. Michelle, yes. Michelle, can I ask you a question, or do you have some?
Oh, sure. That would be great. And I'd love to see more questions in the comments. So go ahead. Don't be shy. We know you're there. Just ask us something.
So with the piece that Niv just performed, he talked a little bit about the change from the original to the rendition you gave him. And when we first started to work together, I realized that there was a 30-year span from the creation of your piece to our presentation. And through that time, there was an evolution, if you will, of the work. I know that artists do this a lot. We start with ideas when we're young, and they just follow all the way through our lifetime. Could you talk a little bit about this?
So the suite, The Stain of Blood, the second and third movements were written when I was an undergrad at University of Toronto. And when I got to Columbia University and I wanted to have it performed, I decided that it needed to be rounded out. It needed a first movement to open it up, because the second movement, as you heard on the video, was slow. The last movement is a little faster. And so I wanted to have some kind of dramatic opening. And that's when I went back and searched for another poem, went back in time as well in terms of the Israeli poets, and found Avram Ben Yitzchak's Who's Dawn. After that was performed, it was also performed at the 92nd Street Y, which is kind of funny because it was performed in the end on in the same place where we ended up talking about it at the Connie conference. So that was interesting, coming back after so many years later in that same room. But once it was performed and then we brought it out here and we had it in the show, then I started to think about it again and thought, well, how can I make this even darker, even more dramatic? And that's when I decided to cast it for the bass baritone, and also to plug in the bass clarinet instead of the violin with the pianist. So that's the way that happened. I guess, like you said, if we feel that a piece has some weight, has something that can give, hopefully that can be dramatic enough for an audience to appreciate it, maybe we need to rethink and just make sure that drama is still there, even if we wrote it when we were young.
I think that we have, somebody said this that I read, that artists have a few ideas, just a few, and we keep refining them throughout our life.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Shall I ask you another question? Somebody did ask what sort of comments did we get from the audience after the live performance, and I wish I had all those quotes available. I mean, we got a lot of reactions, very good ones. I don't know if I could actually pull them up.
What sort of comments did you get from the audience at the live performance?
That's a great question. Let me see if I can. Okay, yes. Let's see. People said that thanked us and congratulated us afterward for producing such an innovative, compelling, and powerful program. Some other people said that the subject wasn't lovely, but the evening was creatively impressive.
Nice.
Another person said that they were very moved by the whole spectacle and very surprised by the music. It was so different from the music that they were usually familiar hearing from me. And it was very strong and it worked very well. They also said that it was great that we used the whole place and the whole space in the museum. And they mentioned that we're so used to staring at a stage, but there was something to look at way over there and way over there, and also outside of the auditorium. She mentioned, I think you accomplished what you wanted, setting the mood, underscoring the tension we were feeling constantly, and you did have some sweet moments as well. Somebody else mentioned the nice harmonic language. And let's see, dancers were perfect, displayed the words beautifully. Let's see, what else can I find?
That's a lot.
Yeah, I think that's enough. But they go on and on, so that's really, I'm really
here's Sarah. She wrote, "Hello, so honored to have taken part in this beautiful performance." Sarah, it is an honor to have you in my performances. Sarah's been in many of them now.
And Layla Balter's
here.
Oh,
Layla is here. I'm here too. Your playing was beautiful, Niv. It really was a pleasure to help bring this vision and powerful message to life. Layla was the young girl. She's now a full-grown teenager, but she was just a girl in our performance.
I will just, add that some people ask me, about the 2 Yiddish folk songs that I use that you heard on the video. And what were they and why did I decide to use them? So I'm just going to mention that those 2 are classic Yiddish folk songs. The first one is called Oifen Pripachik, which in English is On the Hearth. And it's a Yiddish song by Warshawski. It's about a rabbi who's talking to his young students about the alphabet, the Aleph Bet. And one of the lines in the poem says that when children you will grow older, you will understand how many tears lie in these letters and how much crying. The other folk song is Raisin and Almonds, and it's a very classic Jewish lullaby. And it became very famous with the arrangement by Goldfarben. The reason that I chose these 2 folk songs is while I was researching for this show and I came across Elie Wiesel's talk on the anniversary of Kristallnacht, the 70th anniversary, there was some kind of mention that there was a CD of Elie Wiesel singing Yiddish folk songs that he loved from his childhood. And that these musical memories became extremely important to him. And so actually we didn't play it here, but at the start of our show in the auditorium, we did have Elie Wiesel singing those 2 songs while people were taking their seats in the auditoriums. And so it became even more powerful when the violinist started to take them apart. And I would definitely encourage you to find that CD. It's really wonderful to hear Elie Wiesel singing. Hi, Terry. We can't hear you.
Got it.
There you are. Your mic's on.
Okay. Well, I'm back to thank you all for being here today. And for that, the performances were beautiful. Niv, listening to you play the violin was just stunning, and the dancing, and it was very, very moving. And we greatly appreciate having you be with us and to be part of our LA Made series.
Thank you again for including us.
You're so welcome. And before we go, I just want to remind everyone that you can check out our programming at lapl.org, and that our next Thursday LA Made event, not next week we have one on Friday, but the next Thursday LA Made event will be February 11th at 4. And thank you all so much again, and we wish everyone a wonderful rest of your afternoon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.